Hey guys, what's going on? This week's episode is a really special one for me. Um, it is a reunion episode of sorts with me and some guys that I was in a band with in high school. So where it may not be super important to a lot of people um, outside of our friends from back then and us in particular, um, I really wanted to get these guys on here because we haven't all been together in any kind of conversation together in almost 20 years. So I really wanted to get everybody on here because, like, these guys, especially in my early days of being a musician and doing those things, were very important to like the kind of musician and stuff I became later on in life. A couple of them in particular were very influential on me and who I became as a musician. I learned a lot of things from them. Um, so I felt it was really important to get this together, and I can't believe I was able to pull this off. Like I said, it's been like 20 years since we all have been in a conversation at the same time together. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks for sticking around and coming and watching these new episodes. And I hope they're getting better. They're not quite as cheesy as they were before. I'm starting to get the hang of it more and more again. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. Anyways, thanks for watching, and here is the episode with Drowning Machine, which was my high school band.
Think this is the first time I've ever done any kind of Zoom or Skype or any of that crap. I hardly ever even use like FaceTime on my phone.
You're the hardest motherfucker to get a hold of.
You're welcome.
And then I find out after like forever of trying to get a hold of you that you've had the same damn cell phone number for like 20 years.
You betcha.
And I'm like, really? I've had it this whole time?
I've had the same exact phone number since 2004.
Damn. Yeah, and when you told me that, I was like, son of a bitch, I actually have that number.
It's still saved in your phone and everything.
Yeah, it was still saved in my phone and everything. And I'm just like, there's no way he still has this number. Like, yep. I've changed my number at least like 3 times in the last like 10 years. So
yep. I can't stand it. Most of my friends and family all have that number, so I've just taken care to make sure I still have it.
Man, and Scott, you were a hard one to try to get a hold of for me too, because when you like jumped off social media and everything like you did, or at least went private, I didn't think to make sure I had a current number for you before that happened. So I was like trying to find a way to get a hold of you for like literally like the last year and a half, 2 years. I've been like trying to figure out like how can I find a way to get a hold of him.
Right.
And then literally I just had this like, you're an idiot. Like, talk to his brother. Like, yeah. You have his brother. Like, why didn't you just ask him? Surely he has his number.
Yeah, I guess I should have planned that better and told people that I wasn't going to have any social media.
But yeah, it was weird because I didn't even know any, like, I just noticed it one day. I was like, wait a minute, Scotty's gone. Like, where'd he go? Because I went to like message you for something and I was like, wait, he's gone. And then I thought to myself, shit, I don't have a number for him.
Yeah.
Like, the last number I had was when you were playing with us in fucking ACDN back in like 2010.
Right.
That was like the last number I had. So I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I have no way to get a hold of Scott.
Yeah, I didn't really use social media. I never really posted. The only thing I used it for was to post that music that I was making with like drum machines and stuff. But I stopped doing that. So I was like, well, what's the point of having Facebook and Instagram and all that? So I just
honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm still playing in bands and like doing stuff like this, I probably wouldn't have it either. aside from like, it is also kind of nice for some family members, like for me to keep track of, or them to keep track of my life. But aside from that, there's so much fucking drama. It's like not worth it most of the time.
The only thing I miss is Facebook
Keep my mouth
Marketplace.
shut.
Marketplace is nice. You'll find some great shit on Marketplace.
Yep.
As long as it's not like somebody trying to scam you. Like,
I never really ran into that with Facebook Marketplace too much. It's always Craigslist.
Craigslist.
oh,
Yeah.
Craigslist is way worse.
Yep.
I just bring the gun with me when I pick up something from Craigslist.
Yep.
Maybe I'll get it for free. I'll just stick them up.
Now that's thinking whether you're, brain thoughts not working. Yeah.
Man.
I picked up a pretty nice, 70 something, I forget what year it was, 70 something tube amp, giant ass Fender tube amp off Marketplace here for $50.
Damn.
Works and everything. Tubes are still good. Pretty cool. It's massive
You
too.
gonna shock yourself on this one too?
No. I wear gloves now.
So you have learned a few things in your age.
Yeah, well, being an automotive tech with all the hybrid cars, there's 400 volts running through those. I've got gloves that contain that now.
I will never forget that. Like, you working on Mark's bass cab, his combo cab, and you just and you set it on fire too. It was like actually burning. Like,
I don't
yeah,
remember
like
that.
yeah, there was like, it was the dust inside it because it was still all dusty, and I don't even remember what it was you were trying to fix, but you zapped yourself real good and actually caught like some dust on fire, and we're like, and then for like the next like 5 hours, your arm was like twitching. Like,
I do remember that because I couldn't play. The damn arm was doing whatever it wanted to. On its own. I don't remember catching it on fire though.
oh, I remember it.
Rest of that part of my memory.
It was only for a few seconds because it was just like some dust bunnies and stuff inside of it. But I also remember you bringing that combo cab to my house, to my parents' place. And you remember Mom was all like, because you got that off of let's say a partaker in the natural.
Yes. Yes.
And
the old PV 2x12.
Yeah, and you brought that over to the house, and I remember my mom was like, "Something smells good in here." And we're all like,
Yes, that thing. You couldn't get rid of that smell.
It definitely baked into it.
Oh yeah, no, yes. Baked is the undetermined word. Yeah. God, I forgot about that 2x12 PV.
Yep.
Holy crap. Jeez.
Man, it was crazy because back in the day, like, you and I, Chris, like, we used to get confused for being siblings or the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my senior year, like, I was still involved with, like, my church and stuff back then. And the guy that was, like, the head of our youth group, like, they put together these, like yearbooks for all the seniors there. And one of the pictures that they used in there was actually a picture of you playing guitar because they thought it was me. And I remember going through this and I started laughing and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, nothing." I'm like, that's just not me. That's Ingle.
That's pretty awesome. All right.
And I think about that, and like anytime I see that, because I still have that thing, and anytime I like flip through it and I see that, I'm just like,
you should find it and send me a picture of it. That'd be hilarious to see.
I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. I'll be like, "Yep, like right there. It's that one. It was from when we played that show that I put together out at the YFC Center. Like we
Yeah.
were all played there.
Psycho
in Florida.
Center.
Yeah, the Psycho Center festival thing we
Yeah.
put on.
Yeah.
And it was from that night. But it was like I could understand the mistake because it was also like you couldn't really see your face super well because you had your head down like you were
Sure.
playing.
Yeah.
And your hair was in your face. And at that time, like our hair was almost the same.
It was pretty close, yeah.
And we were about the same size at that point. So it was like I could understand why somebody could, you know, potentially mix it up. But I'm like, that's definitely Engel because that's his little custom, you know, hack job guitar body that he did. That's not mine.
I still have that turd too.
You do?
She's retired to a case. Yep, I still have it.
Oh man.
Was that
I
the
wish
place
I
with
still-
the giant plastic screen in front of the drums?
No, that was the one that was the youth group thing I was telling you about, where the youth pastor like made the thing. The one that we played, it would have been before that. Do you remember? Like the stage was like in the corner, and it was only like maybe a couple inches high. Like I meant to like. Let me see while I'm talking to you guys if I can pull up some of these pictures to show you.
Oh, it
I
was
probably-
it was over by Carroll High School.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
I remember that.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep, that's right. And yeah, it was from that night. And yeah, every time I saw that, I'm just like, that's funny. Because we used to have people like confuse us for being either the same person or being brothers.
Oh yeah. Quite a bit.
All right, Marcus. I set this up this early for you.
Friggin' slacker.
Where are you at, boy? He might have been thinking it was like going to be right at 9:30 too, so that's probably
That's what I thought it was.
9:32 or 9:30.
9:30 as well. We're gonna start this already, Eagle?
Yes, sir.
Some things never change. do
Start
they?
it now, start it later. Might as well start it now.
Yeah, I texted you and I was like, "Is it 9:30 or 10?" You're like, "I'm setting it up now," and I was sitting on the toilet, and I'm like, "Well,
Well, when I say I was setting it up, I was like literally just trying to get everything set
Gotcha.
up. So like, it's not like the fun
I'll
thing
have a
about
good
this.
backdrop I'll just be on my phone sitting on the toilet."
I'd be fine with that. Like,
Funny because I heard the first time that you called me, and I was sitting on the toilet too. But I could hear my laptop out here going crazy. Like, ah, shit, is it 9:30 already?
well, and if we're gonna stay on topic with that, like before, like I even started all of this, I had this thought when I came in here with my coffee. Is I'm like, I'm gonna be drinking this while I'm doing this, and then about halfway through this, I'm gonna have to take a shit.
Yeah.
Well, luckily the laptops are mobile, so
Except for my setup isn't. I'm in like my office space area is all like
oh shit.
permanent. Like I'm on a desktop in here and shit. So
Jeez, get with the times.
well, I have like mobile things, but when I do this stuff, like I have a very like permanent setup. Like when you're doing like audio recording stuff like I do, and then like these kinds of things or like game streaming and shit, it's much
Yeah.
nicer to have like a a desktop that can handle it. And
Sure.
so I've got like I wish you could see. Maybe I can move this around a little bit.
So it is mobile.
No, I've got my fucking camera is mobile, but like I got like my fucking screen
Oh, yeah.
and shit,
Yeah.
all my stuff.
Look at you all fancy. Multi-screen.
Oh,
Guess I
I
could
learned that was one of the things I learned when we were doing this podcast the first time a few years ago when we first started doing this, because we were doing it in a studio space back then, and at what's my brother's house now, there's like a shop, hence where we got the name of the podcast being the band shop. There's a shop behind the house. It's like you could probably fit 4 cars in it or something, 3-4 cars in it. Like the footprint of it is about the same size as his actual house. And we cleared it all out, and it's just one big open room, and then we basically turned it into our own audio video studio for doing this podcast, and we would bring in bands, to both perform, and we would record like a 20-minute set or something and have them like talk. And it got to where like we started doing it, like, this is just how my luck is. We started doing it in, I want to say like October of 2019. And then of course, like, the pandemic hits at the beginning of 2020 and fucks everything up to where like we were shut down, like all these bands started canceling, and like we were stuck like going, okay, well, what are we going to do? And we tried to keep it going as best we could, but it was really hard with like COVID restrictions and stuff to get people to come out. And then, and it was also one of those things where, in typical fashion for me, like, I set, my expectations a bit too high with everything, and took on way too much responsibility on running the thing. And I mean, so by the end of it, I was like not only like hosting, I was doing audio editing, I was doing video editing, I was like managing all of the social media platforms, I was uploading everything, and I just burnt myself out and like almost destroyed like my relationship and my family and everything, because I was dedicating so much time to just doing this.
Yeah.
That yeah, and I was like, I've got to stop. Like, this is too much. And so we stopped in like the beginning of 2021, and then just a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I was like, I'm really getting the bug to kind of do this again, but in a much smaller form. Like, let's start small and then see if we can bring it back up to something bigger again. But let it happen naturally. Don't just like dive headfirst into the deepest part of the pool, like right off the bat, maybe wait out a little bit. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now. But because of that, though, that's part of why I had a lot of this stuff, was because of doing that before. Like, I already had a setup for doing this. And I learned when we first started doing this that I was like, man, I really need to have like a multi-screen setup and stuff, because it'd be nice to have some things over here and other things over here, and like I can organize this stuff a little bit better. So when I set up this space here at my house, I was like, yeah, I'm doing dual screens and like setting things up a little nicer. God. Though, I mean, in typical media fashion, everything's an illusion, because I mean, for fuck's sake, I go just a little bit this way or a little bit that way,
Yeah.
It's not all that impressive. And this is a tiny ass room.
It's beautiful from my view.
Yeah, same. Is that a candle lit behind you?
Yeah, because fuck, dude, I gotta like get myself in the headspace. We're all old now, man. Like, I'm old. Like, I gotta have my candles going. I gotta have my coffee. Like, I'm a basic white bitch now. You should know this.
Got a salt rock somewhere.
Funny, I almost threw on my Salt Life shirt.
Oh man.
I'm drinking Dunkin' Donuts coffee out of a Starbucks mug.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, 9:31. His ass still isn't on here.
Oh, come on, Mark. What are you doing? I mean, luckily, like, with the way that I do this, I record everything. I'm like, it's already been recording this entire time, and then like what I'll do is go back through later and be like, okay, let's cut this chunk. Let's put this chunk together. So like having him not here immediately isn't that bad of a thing, because we've already got some stuff I can use. But
yeah, you hear that, Marcus? Having you not here isn't that big a deal.
Do you think he's actually gonna watch this back later?
You better. Slacker.
Chris's whiteboard.
Oh, Chris, you gonna draw something for us? I was like, wait, what? What happened? And then I was like, oh, it's fucking Ingle.
How do I close it? There it is. I'm a noob.
Jesus, Mark. Where are you at?
Amsterdam's one of those places that has those red light districts, right?
Yeah.
I want to be over there.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my phone out here and I'm gonna like bug him. And I'll watch. I'm gonna try to call him through Instagram. We're gonna see what happens.
Is his number like a wild looking number since it's overseas?
I don't have his actual number. He and I have like didn't join.
Yeah.
He knows. The gig's up.
The last I knew of him, he was in I think Washington.
Yeah, like he's been back and forth a few times. Oh, now it says he's active. But is he really active, or is it just that he's turned his phone on?
Yeah, he was doing some like postal service style music, I think.
Oh yeah, dude. Like he's got
Holy
some.
shit, that's a band I haven't thought of for a while.
Yeah.
He's got some really good stuff. His album that he just put out under Magical Trash is like the thing that he's under now. He just sent me.
Magical
Oops, I'm jumping into the call now. It's really good. It's actually really, really good. I'll have to like make sure that I give you guys links to everything. Like I was super impressed with it. He sent it to me like
I just
like a
got
month. Yeah, it was like a month and a half before like a month and a half before he released it. And I listened to it and I was like, "Oh my god, dude, like this is legitimately like the best shit you've ever done."
Mhm.
Like this is incredibly good. I'm like I like that. I'm like I'm trying really hard not to like, metaphorically and literally suck your dick on this, but like like this is like legitimately good. Like not that the shit you've done before isn't, but like this is something I was not expecting to be like this.
Yeah, it looks professional. He's got a nice quality picture. It's on Spotify.
Yeah, he's got stuff on Spotify and everything now.
I'll have to look that up because I didn't know he was doing any of that.
Yeah, he was also playing with a band for a little while before he went back to Amsterdam. God damn, this cough. That's what I get for being at a dive bar all night last night.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get away from the smoke.
Ugh. It was like I was a smoker for like 10 years. Like I haven't been a smoker for 6 or 7 now. But like even at that, it's like I go to these bars and stuff now and I'm like, good lord, come out afterwards and like I'm all my voice is all messed up.
That's not from the screaming?
No, because like in this band, I'm just the drummer, so like I'm not really. I don't have to do that. Although I mean, I do
I was
sometimes.
gonna say you're still back there screaming. I'm sure you can't resist.
Sometimes.
I've seen live shows. I know how drummers get.
I don't know. I was pretty quiet.
You were very quiet until you were quiet to a point. Like once you got like comfortable around people, then you would be like more vocal. But
you're right, though. Thinking back, I don't remember you talking a whole lot.
Well, he was also a kid then. I mean, like, you were like 14 or something, I think, when we first like started jamming together.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 6th or 7th grade.
Yeah.
I just happened to be over at Jack Kennedy's house next door, and he was like, "Hey, let's go over to my neighbor's house." And it was you and Mark.
He had said something to me about you before. He's like, I know this kid who's like a really good drummer that I go to school with, and name is Scott. And I was like, cool. And it was like right when we were kind of starting this band
Mhm.
and trying to figure out what we were going to be doing with it, because obviously, like we were joking about before Ingo got on, it's like every band that I'm involved in, I almost always start out as a drummer and then end up moving to guitar or something later.
Mhm.
Like, that's kind of how it started with when we were doing Drowning Machine stuff. It was like I was playing drums and writing drum parts, but I didn't really have the intent of being the drummer necessarily.
Mhm.
And yeah. Come on, Marquis.
Yeah, that was the first time I came over to your house. That was the first time I ever saw a double bass pedal.
Oh, I know. Like the craziest thing about that was like you got on my kit. I remember you getting on my kit and like you're like just back there just flying through those kicks.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I've never used one of these things before. And I'm like, man, I'm like thinking in my head, man, fuck you. Like, like this little 14-year-old punk comes over here and just annihilates me on this double kick, and he's never touched one in a day in his life. Like,
Yeah. I always wanted to play on one because I would see like pictures and stuff on like a musician's friend, but I never bought one or used
oh,
it.
they were
'cause I,
stupid expensive back then. Like,
oh yeah.
like I remember I spent way too much money on that pedal back in the day.
Yeah, even back then, I think the one that I ended up buying, the DW 7000, it was like 250 or $300, and even back that was a lot of money
Yeah,
back then.
like mine, if you remember, I was sticking with mostly like Mapex stuff because I was like that was my kit and everything was all Mapex. And like at that point, Mapex um made a double kick pedal. They actually only had like two models. They had like a double kick pedal, like a regular one, and then they had this like hybrid hi-hat stand double kick pedal where it was like like you could like flip a switch and then like slide your pedal over to the hi-hat and then you could like switch it back over. And I remember like just because I was like, no, I want to stick with Mapex, like so that everything matches.
Mhm.
It was like close to $400 for that pedal
Right.
in what 1999, 2000, I think when I bought that. Like, yeah, it was expensive.
Yeah.
And now you can like buy a cheap ass Gibraltar one for like $100.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it's like shit.
I don't even have a drum set. I haven't had a drum set in probably like 10 years.
Holy
Which is
crap.
such a shame.
Yeah.
I remember getting on you about that like several years ago, like being like, dude, I need to get you back behind a drum kit again. Like
Mhm.
it's like
I don't know that I don't think I've touched my guitars in over a year now, at least. The last time I went to pick one up, the cable from my amp to the guitar was all funky and staticky, and you had to hold it the right way and bite your tongue the right way, and then it would work for a second. And I was like, yeah, fuck this. I need to go get a cable. And here I am a year later, I've still not gotten a cable. There's 3 music stores within 10 minutes of me.
see, I've gotten
Right.
spoiled in the fact that like with our studio space, um like we have so much stuff there that it's like if a cable goes out, it's like, oh, just grab that other one. Like we've
Yeah.
got like a bunch of them like up on the wall or in like we have like a drawer that has a bunch of different cables and stuff. And it's because it's not just me, like myself and my brother and one of our other friends, like we kind of all went in on it together. So like all the equipment out there is kind of a mixture of all three of ours.
Yeah.
But we all use each other's, like we have like this agreement where it's like, we all use each other's stuff. It's kind of basically, you break it, you buy it kind of a thing. It's like
Yeah.
you can use it, we don't care. Just if you break it, either fix it or replace it.
Right.
Like,
There's a price tag attached.
yeah, it's like aside from that, it's like I don't really care. But because of that, I've gotten so spoiled though now that it's like I'm used to being like, oh, this cable's not working, or like something's wrong, like switch to, or like a guitar's not working for some reason. Oh, fuck it,
Yeah.
grab that one over there. Like,
Yeah.
like because we got like a little rack that's got like several guitars on it and stuff. Like a couple of mine are out there, there's a couple of my brothers, and like some other people's stuff. Like it's crazy. Like when I think about like what we have out there, sometimes it blows my mind. Like because and I want it to like, I still want it to be what we set it up for, which was as a space for everybody to be able to come out and like work on stuff. Like, you know, it was one of those things where I'm like, I have spent close to 25 years or more now of my life learning how to do all this stuff. And so like now I want to like help other people be able to do stuff with it. Like,
Sure.
so hence why we started the podcast and why we started doing all that stuff, was to like have a ability to kind of help other people with what we've learned how to do.
Like when I was living in Georgia, I picked up this freaking beautiful Explorer, which is kind of my dream guitar. It's not an ESP or anything, but it's a super nice one. And I threw some EMG pickups in it because, you know, EMG fucked the world. And
Yeah.
so I have like almost my dream guitar, and it's sitting upstairs on the stand where it's been for a couple of years and never been played, and it's terrible. I've got a really nice parametric equalizer, same one that Dime uses, on my Randall 3/4 cab, and it just sits there. It's kind of sad. Breaks my heart thinking about it now.
It's what happens though when we get old, right? It's like we get old,
Yeah.
and we get lives, and you know, it next thing we know, it's like, oh, I haven't touched this in forever. I mean, honestly, like I hadn't been playing drums in years, like
Mhm.
many years. And then I just started like, aside from just like jamming around, I hadn't really played.
I listened to the old Drowning Machine stuff. I can't remember where it was, Bandcamp, or I don't remember which side it was. And I was listening to the old drum recordings on those songs.
Oh,
man.
God, when they were all done with like a drum machine, me like tapping out that shit on a drum machine.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like on a grid.
Oh no, it was
Or-
like, it was just played like manually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like cringeworthy for me when I go back and I listen to it. Like when I think about like the fact that we were doing that at 16, 17, 18 years old, like that side of it, I'm like, okay, that's kind of impressive, like for the time. But
Mhm.
God, like compared to like what I'm used to doing now, especially having worked in an actual studio setting, like, oh, it's awful.
Yeah, there was a lot of forced galloping with the kick drum.
Oh,
And someone was asking me a while back, hey, do you have anything from when you used to play drums? And I listened to it before I sent it, and I was like,
there he
nope.
is.
Hola.
It's Babyface, Mark. What happened? What
happened?
happened? You got Babyface going on.
You know, just gotta do something to stop looking as old as I feel.
I feel that. I think we all could probably agree with you there.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah,
Digging the glasses.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we got to now like catch up with you a little bit and figure out what's going on like with you in the last few years. We've all been kind of shooting the shit for the last half hour, 40 minutes or something, like it's like I obviously know a bit more than the rest of them know about like what you've been doing with your life, but you know, you'll have to like enlighten everybody as to a little bit of your story over the last few years, especially the last 15.
At least.
I mean, we honestly, if you think about it, I think the four of us have not been in a conversation together like this in almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, probably been. It's
yeah,
probably been long.
yeah. Because I mean, I think like even like towards the end of the band, like Mark, you weren't even playing with us anymore. You had already kind of dropped out. And so like you were even only a part of it for like, you know, I mean the majority, but still like you kind of left before we even stopped kind of playing. Because I remember like the last show we played, I think was at the fair in 2003.
Yeah.
I think.
I remember
last
playing
one.
there. Yeah.
And the year before, so like in 02, you were there,
that's
Mark.
right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
And then in 03, you weren't, and I think you hadn't officially like quit the band yet, but I think you were in New York, I want to say. I think you were going out to like visit family or something in New York.
Yeah, I think I was like on a family vacation.
Yeah, and so
This
you
might
couldn't-
also be like the last family vacation that I ever went on.
But I remember like
It was
that
kind of
was like
that age.
yeah, I remember that was like the last. I want to say that was like the last show we did, and I remember you weren't there for that one because I pulled double duty and played guitar and did vocals for that
Oh,
one.
nice.
But anyways, go ahead and like you gotta like tell everybody like what you've been doing because like you've had kind of a crazy life in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I was at Purdue for my undergrad, so I was kind of hanging out in Lafayette until I was about, I don't know, 23 or so,
Mm-hmm.
and had some friends that were moving out to Portland, Oregon, so I just kind of tailed along with them, and ended up living there for a good amount of time, and kind of magnetically pulled the rest of my immediate family out there. So like my parents and my brother and my sister and her family are all out in Portland as well. But over the last like 5 years, I've been spending okay, that's not right. Basically, okay, I like to frame it as I avoided the Trump presidency by being in Amsterdam. that's basically how it ended up. Like, I had a kind of an opportunity through work to work over here, and then my now wife Andy is working for the university here, which is how we're back here. But we spent most of the pandemic in Portland. Kind of got trapped there with all the lockdowns and stuff, but also pretty nice to be around family.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like music, I don't know. I've been working on like a million solo projects for a long time, and I've had some bands with some pretty good runs. But I think the one that I was most excited about was this one that I was in Portland just over this last 3 years. It was like it felt like we could finally like get somewhere, and then I was like, and I'm moving. Sorry, guys. But they're doing great. Like they're super good guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've kept up with them a little bit, like, because obviously I like knew about them because of you, like getting involved and everything. So I was following the band, and then with you going back and everything, and I've still been kind of keeping tabs on them a little bit, and they seem to be doing all right. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, when I saw that you were like moving back and everything, I was like, oh man, that's got to be a like
Yeah.
you were. I know you, and I know how you were like, oh hey, like this one's actually like going somewhere and doing something, and then
Yeah, and it was like super fun. It was like such good chemistry. Buddy Wincoop is the band, by the way, if nobody's checked them out. But yeah, it was just like super fun, like high energy, like post punk, sort of like Devo Talking Heads. I don't know, with some kind of like stompy, like I don't know. There's a little bit of that like Louisiana swamp influence, I think, from one of the guys. So we had a little bit of that like boot stomp.
It was it's a very interesting sound, and I loved it. I was like, when I first started hearing it, when you were getting involved, I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely see why Mark's doing this. like,
Yeah,
like
this is like
this is
I listened
right
to their
up Mark's
demos and I
alley.
was like, this is exactly the kind of bass that I want to play. So that was fun.
Oh man, like I honestly like having like trying to put this together, like when I first started thinking about like doing the podcast again, this was one of the first ideas that popped in my head, was like, I need to get you guys all together with me on this, because it's kind of, with me bringing this back, I'm kind of doing a little bit of a retrospective of my own life into some ways, like different things that I've been involved in and different people I've been involved with. And like, I was like, I have to get these guys on here because yes, when I look back at it, it's like, we're a bunch of, crummy little teenagers, like not the greatest
Little
musicians, not the,
shits.
you know, but like
Speaking
when
for
I
myself.
think about though how important it was to me going forward, like so much stuff that I learned and like took with me came from that time period of my life. So it was like I'm like, oh, I got to get everybody on here just to like reunite everybody for a few at least, just so we could kind of talk a little bit about it because like especially like with Mark, like you know, I was joking about it earlier when I was telling them as far as like with like your new stuff, like your solo stuff that you just put out and everything. I was telling them I was like, I'm not trying not to like metaphorically and literally suck your dick too much, but like I really love that like that album. Like it's like I listened to it when you sent it to me like early and was just like, dude, this is the best stuff you have done. Like
Thanks.
period. Like it's so good. So I was telling them, I'm like, you guys have to listen to this. Like you have to. Like it's really
Appreciate
good. But like for me in particular, um like I would not be anywhere where I am if it wasn't for Mark. Like Mark was the guy who taught me everything. Like we were like what 10 when we met, 11, something like that. And you already had a bit of a background in like playing piano and so you had some music theory background and stuff already. So when me, this idiot kid who had no technical background whatsoever, but like I wanted to learn how to play shit, he'd be like, "Oh, like this is this. Like Harry, this is how you play this." And so I started learning all of that from him. Like
but also vice versa. Like I had such limited exposure, I think, especially to like the more extreme edges of rock music. So I think you brought in a lot of that influence for me, and like here's like how you can totally break those rules, and like here's how you can like totally fuck shit up.
me breaking rules, I don't know what you're
I
talking
was
about.
gonna say that's what Zach's good for.
Yeah. So it's definitely a both ways situation.
I mean, when I think about like learning to play guitar, like almost everything I learned about playing guitar came from you. Like because you were picking up guitar around the same time, but because of you already having a bit of a technical background in music, like it was quicker for you to pick up on things. And I would like be struggling trying to figure something out and you'd be like, "Oh no, like just it's this." I mean, I remember the first time cuz like I couldn't read music, I didn't know anything, and you were just like, "Here, this is this thing called tablature." Like this is what this means and you broke down like how to read it and I was like, "Oh shit, this is great." Like this is so simple. I understand how to read this like and like I just went off with it from there, but like so much of like my even to this day when I sit down and play guitar or like write music, there's little things that I do that I go like, "Oh god damn it, that's a Mark thing. That came from Mark." Like that that lick came from something that Mark showed me 20 plus years ago. Like
That's rad. Thanks.
so
Thanks for
like it's like you never leave my head. You're always still in there.
Let's not get sappy now.
But
is it rent free or
we'll talk later. But yeah, so there was you and I kind of already had the relationship before. We were playing around with like band ideas and things before, and then when we became teenagers and got into high school and stuff, we started what became Drowning Machine. And I remember like you and I kind of like we were just like we want to go heavier, we want to go more brutal, you know, like, like let's make something more metal.
drop
Like
C?
yeah, ooh, drop C. So like and then it became drop B thanks to fucking like Slipknot and shit back in the day.
Yep.
But uh and then Ingle, because of like who I was dating at the time, like you were good friends with at high school. And I remember she was like, "You got to meet this dude. Like, you guys would get along great. Like, you're like the same person." Like, so I remember I met you at, I think, was it at her 16th birthday party or just before? Maybe it was right around that time.
Yeah, I think it was at her party.
And like, I think you might have even brought your guitar with you or something. I think, and we're like jamming around. And I was like, oh,
Possible.
like this dude can actually play. So then it was like, hey, you want to come and play with us? Like we're trying something. And then like
Yeah.
from that point on, you were like there,
Yeah.
a part of it. And then we were talking a little bit earlier about with Scotty, like him just showing up at my house with my neighbor, like who I was friends with, like one day being like, hey, here's this kid I was telling you about. Like he plays drums. I was like, well, there's my kit. And then he gets on there and just blows my ass out of the water. And I'm like, damn it. Like little 14-year-old punk is showing me up on my own damn kit.
Guilty.
So I was like, yeah, we definitely have to have you. Like, you definitely have to do this. And it's funny, though, because I think as a band, we only maybe played a handful of shows, if that.
Yeah.
Like,
Wasn't very many.
4 or 5, maybe at most. But it was a lot of, like, jamming in garages and, like, being way too loud.
Turn it to 11.
Your neighbors must have really hated us.
What was funny was like my neighbors, like in my neighborhood, were so used to it at that point, like because they had heard me banging around on my drum kit for years and like loud music coming from the house, and like the neighbor, like immediately to like if you're like looking at the house, the neighbor to the right was like they had kids around like our age too, so there was like whatever. Now if you remember on the other side, that house was the elementary school principal lived in that house. And so like that was the one I was like, I don't know, like we might have some issues with that one, but like he was pretty cool. Like we never really had any issues with him either. But there was times when I don't know how we didn't get like noise complaints on us, because like you could go all the way down to the end of the circle like there and you could still hear that stuff coming from the house. It's like, an eighth of a mile down the road or something, and it's like you could still hear it. I remember going out to Ingalls Place out there,
Out in the boonies.
And being loud out there sometimes too, or even like Scotty at your like where you were living at the time. We practiced out there in your garage a couple of times. I remember.
I remember setting up like all the amps out in Ingalls' yard.
Yes, in the backyard. I forgot about that. Good memory, sir.
That was one of the few times that I was like, hey, wow, like the drums aren't completely drowning everything out because it's not echoing off of any walls or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's like...
Holy crap. I forgot all about that.
And of course, we can't have all of us here and be talking about like high school and band stuff and everything without, putting a little remembrance for, Ingalls' car and the celebrity and its demise. With I still will never ever. I have never met anybody in my life who has totaled a car in as creative of a way as you creaming a cow at like 55 mile an hour.
Yep.
55 mile an hour.
It might not have even been that, because that old car barely would do 55.
I just remember like giving you so much shit about that, like right off the bat, being like, hey, Chris, beef.
Got beef.
It's what's on your hood.
Yep. I will never live that down. Never, ever. My dad tends to remind me about every winter that animals like to hide under the hood of cars or on top of the hood of cars. Keep warm. Yep. Yep.
I still am just like, I mean, 'cause that was a big fucking cow. Like, I saw the pictures.
It was huge.
That was a big cow. Like,
Yep.
just cruising down the road, and I'm like picturing in my head you listening to like music, slowly going down the road, and then all of a sudden, like, bam,
Yep.
just cow flipping up over your car, like.
Well, at first I didn't know it was a cow. Because it was 4 a.m. in the country and the headlights sucked in that thing. I came up over a hill, and just on the other side of it is this thing in the middle of the road. At first, I thought it was like a wooden carriage or something. When I was coming at it, I was like, "Holy shit! I just hit like a carriage or a wagon or something." And then I get out and I see some fur hanging off the hood of my car, and I walk back and look at it. Holy crap! This is a damn cow I just hit. Back before cell phones was a thing, so I'm knocking on the country door of this house, and these people, I feel bad I woke them up at 4 a.m., but I don't use your phone. Sure enough, yeah.
I just hit something. Oh, a deer? No.
About 3 times that size.
When I remember looking at the car, like when you got it back to the house, and like the fucking roof, like had your head been even like a couple of inches over, you would have been in some serious trouble.
Oh yeah.
Like, like that sucker crushed.
Totally accordion back and everything. I'm lucky that, like, I think I scratched my thumb, and there might have been a tiny little scratch on my forehead, and that was it. I drove that car back home. That's a testament to the '85 Chevy Celebrity. I was puking coolant the whole way, but it made it. Yep.
I just remember, like, that was like your first, like, I'm gonna like customize this car. Who gives a shit what anybody thinks about it? And you were like, and then you were like, I'm gonna be as ridiculous as I can be with this thing. Yeah. And like, you put that fucking big wing on the back. And
the dual blade aluminum spoiler, and I had the hot pink spray painted brake dust covers and some ridiculous chrome hubcaps. And yeah, it was fun.
I'm like, who does this to an '85 celebrity?
I do.
Then I remember you taking me out in your first souped up neon that you had, and me being like, I'm gonna fucking die. Like, Engel is gonna kill me in this thing. Jesus, dude.
Nah.
No, it's like, but see, the thing is you have this knack for like pushing things to the limit a little bit, with people. Because, I mean, what, you and JB almost ended up in the field on, oh God, what's that county road there? Can't remember which, was that 500?
Yeah, I can't remember the number on it, but
it's got that sharp S bend there, and like, after you come off that
upward.
Little, and you didn't tell him about it, and he almost ended up in the field, and he's just like, why did you not warn me about this? And you're like, because you would have slowed down.
Exactly. Yeah, we got airborne in that Fiero.
Oh man,
that was
one of the things I will definitely have to do when I put this up is I'll have to cut in the sledding video, the notorious sledding video of all 4 of us behind my pickup truck there in my neighborhood, where it was the day that we actually took those like promo pictures, the first like actual kind of like promo pictures that we took, and the black and white ones, and we all went out, and this was in like February, I want to say, of like 2002, and it was like there was quite a bit of snow, but it wasn't completely buried in snow, and then we hooked the sled up behind my truck, and we were like pulling it around the neighborhood.
Yep.
And I almost like killed Mark on that mailbox.
It's a wonder anyone survived, honestly.
What made it bad too was like that whole section at the end, like didn't even have snow or ice on it. It was just asphalt.
Oh,
so you'd come around that corner and it would be like shh, and then it would be and then back onto the ice. I don't know how many times like one of us almost got hit by another car coming around the corner or something. Like,
I remember a couple of close calls.
I was about 2 inches from the mailbox. We're gonna give him a ride. He almost dumped me. Dumped my truck. That doesn't sound healthy. Oh! We lost one. He spilled.
He's filled.
Just think if the truck was coming around the corner too.
Oh, that would suck, but.
Good job, Mark.
That was awesome.
Did it hurt? No. Just think when you're going on the part where there's no snow.
Reminds me of Batman or something. Woot woot, yo! Jeez, I lost it. Oh! Nice! That was good.
That was awesome.
See his reaction. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Oh, God. And later for now.
The things that we would do in rural Indiana for fun.
Yeah, that was the place to be. No better way to grow up.
But like, so let's see. We played. Yeah, we really only played. I'm trying to think. Like, it had to have only been like maybe 4 shows, 5 shows.
Yeah.
And like, I remember a lot of like the songs were things that like, some of the songs were things that like we had already kind of had before. I know some of them were ones that like Mark had already written kind of pre the band starting.
Yep.
And I know he and I've talked about this before, like over the years, but like one of the issues, one of the things that I always like kind of get on myself for during that time was I would always try to simplify things more, because it was like, oh, instead of being the guy that was like, no, let's like keep things like harder to do and like make ourselves better musicians by doing that. I was like, no, we're not really like at that level yet. Let's like just make something more simple. And Mark would come up with some of these songs and stuff that I would just listen to. I'd be like, God damn, this is so good. We can't play this though. Like, we're not at that level. Like, we're not like, he's at that level where he can play that, but the rest of us can't.
Well, I'd also like record these demos and like I wouldn't remember the guitar parts like 15 minutes later.
What's still like one of my favorite guitar riffs that I still bring out to this day, like when I'm just warming up. It's like become one of my warm-up things on guitar, is the riff that became later the song The Taste of Irony. But like, it was okay, so gotta backtrack a little bit. The only songs that ever came out while we were actually a band were that like 5 songs that were on that EP that we did, or I should say I did a lot of in like 2002.
Mhm.
And then there were songs that when I kind of re-released that later as like a full album, that were the other songs that we had been working on or that Mark had or whatever, but we had never released up to that point. And that song, The Taste of Irony, that song Mark had written and had in the arsenal back in the day, but it was one of those ones that I was like, I don't feel like we're capable of doing this right now. Like, but I
I
loved
don't even remember this.
I loved the riffs so much, like you, a couple of the riffs that you had in that song so much that like I learned to play them. And because it was one of those where you basically wrote your bass lick and your lead guitar lick together and you put them together into one thing. So it's like if you just played each of them separately, they weren't that hard. It was putting them together simultaneously that made them hard to play. And so when I had learned how to play it, I had to break it into those 2 parts. I had to learn the bass part of it first, and then the guitar part, and then try to figure out how to put them together. And then once I figured out how to do that, I was like, holy shit! Like this is, I've always wanted to learn how to play this. This was many years after we weren't even a band anymore. Like when I finally learned how to play it, and I remember like being so like happy. I was like, I fucking know how to play this now. It's only taken me like 5 or 6 years later, but like I know how to play this now, and I still will play that riff like that. So like like I will play that like when I'm warming up, like just to get my hands moving. And I remember, I think I said something to you about that a few years ago, Mark. You were like, I don't even know what fucking song you're talking about. Like, it's been so many years. Like, and then I think I sent you like an MP3 of it or something. And you're like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this.
Yeah, it's kind of a flaw. I'm still like that. I just like pump stuff out and I just forget it. I forget it like 15 minutes later. Just like constant stream of consciousness.
Well, you know as well as I do, like that's the reason why like I started learning how to do recordings, was because my memory is absolute garbage when it comes to guitar riffs and shit. So I learned how to record so that I could record it and have it to listen to if I ever wanted to like relearn to play it, because I could pick things back up by ear pretty quick. So I'd like record a riff, and then if I forgot it, I could go back and listen to it. Then I'd be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember how this goes. And then I could figure out how to play it again. Like, the only reason I got into audio production was because of my memory being shit. Like,
It's a good reason.
Yeah.
That's how I learned most of the songs. Was you would give me a CD of it, and then I would go home and practice it over and over again. And then there was some songs you would send me. I'm like, yeah, I can't. My feet don't go that fast. I don't know how you want me to play this. We have to slow this down.
but then there were times where I think that like you thought you couldn't play like that, but it was like I only wrote it that way because I had heard you do something similar when we were just jamming. So I was like, I know you can because I've heard you do it.
Yeah, there was a lot of off-tempo stuff too that I never played off-tempo.
That's wait, I gotta do it this way. Like this guy down here. That's his fault. The off-tempo weird shit. Like that's all Mark right there is what that is. I would be like listening to stuff going like, what?
Yeah.
What is this?
Like there were some odd time signatures too, but before I even knew what odd time signatures were, I was just like, this sounds right. It's like 7/8 or something.
Yeah, you would write something and then you would demo it out and then you would send it to me and I'd be like, huh? Like, I like it. I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand how this works.
Isn't that where the math metal term came from?
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, yet again, like, a lot of my musical... So, like, you talk about, Mark, about, like, me influencing your musical taste. Like, then you went off, like, and just, like, dove headfirst into all sorts of stuff. And then you'd be sending me bands. Like, you'd be like, oh, you need to check out this band. You need to check out this band. And I will fully admit, like, you were the first person to be like, here's the Dillinger Escape Plan. And I was like, huh? Like, I listened to it. The first time I ever listened to Dillinger, I was like, I don't understand this at all.
Yeah,
like,
it definitely melted my brain a little bit.
And then, like, a year or two later, like, it finally all sunk in. Like, I understood it. And it was like, I became a huge Dillinger fan after that. But it was like, you were always at least a year or two ahead of me. Like, on shit. Like, you would find a band and then you'd be like, oh, you gotta check this out, it's so good. And then I'd be like, okay. And then I would listen to it, I'd be like, all right. But I didn't get it. And then it would be a year or two later, then I'd be like, oh, I get it now. Like, you're like, oh, now I'm into this. But you would always be like moved on to something else by that point.
Also maybe a character flaw.
Oh man,
I still remember there was a CD that Mark you'd created. There was like 4, we call them demo songs or whatever on it, but there's one song that it was the same notes played forward and backwards, dubbed over each other. That still stays in my mind to this day.
I know exactly what song you're talking about.
That little recording, that song, man, that blew my mind to hear that. And I remember sitting down trying to learn and hear each individual note forward and backwards to be able to play it, because I was, just super cool shit.
What was brilliant about that was that it was the way you did it, where it was both guitars playing simultaneously. One would play it forward and the other would play it backward.
Yep.
And then you would meet right in the middle where they would cross
Yep.
over.
They would cross over each other.
Weird, like,
yeah.
head fuck of like, whoa. And I know exactly what song you're talking about. I remember it
Yeah.
very clearly. And like, I remember thinking the same thing. I was like, this is brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
this is like, it creates this weird headspace.
It's a very euphoric type sound.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, this is such a simple concept of like the same riff just played opposite. Like, but it worked so well. You were like always really good at doing that kind of stuff, like that kind of experimental stuff of like, let's try this, let's try that. Or like I said, you were always ahead of me in particular on a lot of that stuff. And I felt like, if anything, like I will definitely own up to it coming across more of like me seeming like I was trying to like just take control of everything, but I think it was more of a, I'm trying to like be realistic. Like, what can we do realistically with what we're capable of right now? Like, and I mean, I know it's at one point, you know, you and I, Mark, had a little bit of a headbutt issue on that at one point, because like, and rightfully so, if I was in your position, I would have felt the same way. I would have been like,
I was like 0% pragmatic then, so
like, I mean, I would have felt the same way, like being like, oh, like this dude's just like taking everything I'm doing and changing it, or like, you know, not paying attention to like my contributions. And it was like, no, it's not that at all. I was paying attention. It was that we weren't that good. I didn't think we were that good. And I unfortunately made like a lot of executive decisions of like, yeah, we're just not going to do that because we can't do that, instead of being like, no, let's just try it and see if we can get to that point, you know. And but like I learned a lot during that time, you know, like stuff like that would kind of come back later in my life in other band situations, and I'd kind of remind myself like, oh, be careful, dude, like don't just like start taking control of shit. Like, you might piss somebody off and like make them like leave, or, you know, whatever, because they're not going to understand what you're trying to do, you know. Have faith in the other people, like, that you can make it happen.
that's something that my teenage self didn't understand, is being in a band is also about compromise.
Mhm.
At that age, I was just such a little shit. I was just not willing to compromise on anything. But I don't know if like being in a band now, like the past few bands I've been in, it's been so fun that's part of the process, is like, where are we at, and like what can we actually do, and how far can we push it, and like how are people's contributions getting heard without like getting clobbered or, you know. And that's a pretty
the same
part
thing.
of it.
That's the same thing I'm doing like right now with, you know, the band that I'm playing in. It's like part of why it's working so well is that we're all like open to everything and everybody contributes in some way. And for once, I feel like I found a group of people that like we're all like-minded in that sense. It's probably because we're all old now. Like, we've all
really
been
helps.
in bands. We've all been in bands already. Like, we know like this is the shit we don't want to deal with anymore. Like this is the stuff that matters. This is the stuff that doesn't matter. Like, and you know, you might have somebody that comes in with like the basic structure of a song, and then everybody just kind of throws in their 2 cents, and like the song might end up coming out absolutely nothing like it started, but it was, you know, everybody contributing to it. And it's
the best feeling when you get to play that with those people.
Oh yeah 100%. It's like, it's also playing in this band like that I'm in now, I'm only the drummer. Like, I don't have to do anything else, which for me is nice. Like, because I've always been like the main guy writing stuff, you know, for bands that I've been in. And aside from like this, like with Drowning Machine stuff, I mean, I think you contributed just as much, if not more, in a lot of ways. You know, like I said, unfortunately, some of the stuff didn't get released until later, but like, aside from this, like most of the other bands that I got involved in, like I would end up being like one of the primary writers. So doing this where like all I have to do is just show up and play drums is so freeing because it's like I don't have to worry about anything else. Let them do what they're doing. Like it's like I just listen to what they're doing and then figure out what I want to play drums with over top of it. And it's cool because it goes back to like you were saying with everybody contributing, it's a much more friendly environment. Like everybody's kind of like, I mean, not to say that there aren't times where people might get a little butthurt about, you know, a part getting changed or something, but we all have come at it from the beginning of being like, well, that's going to happen. If you bring something to the table, don't be too precious about it because you're bringing it to the table for everybody to pick apart and like do something with it.
Yep.
And you might end up completely changing it to where it's nothing like what you started out with, but at least it came that way from consensus from everybody involved. Like, and then sometimes, in fact, most of the time, somebody brings something and then it changes and becomes what it is in the end. And we're like, wow, this is 1,000 times better than what I brought to it. Like, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, and those sort of epiphany moments are also great, where like somebody forces you to kind of look at something at a totally different angle than you expected.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. We have a song called Ann Arborist, and there's a part in that song where literally, like, I will never forget how this came together. Like, we were sitting in our rehearsal space, and Danny had, one of our guitar players had this riff that he had for a while, and he was just noodling around on it. And my brother, who's the other guitar player, was playing a riff that he had for a while, and we were just kind of jamming around. We weren't really playing together. It was kind of like in one of those like lull moments, you know, where we had just been working on something and now we're just kind of sitting around like randomly doing shit. And all of a sudden I heard this thing where like I was hearing what my brother was doing, I was hearing what Danny was doing, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, this could work together. You guys could make this work together. And they're like, huh? Because they weren't even paying attention to each other. They were just they were off in their own little worlds playing their parts. And I'm like, no, play that again. Danny, play what you were just playing. And I was like, Benny, take what you're doing, now come in here. You know, because I was literally sitting in the middle of them behind my drum kit, so I was hearing both sides of it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this is how you put it together. Like, I'm like, you can put this together. And they're like, what are you talking about? So like play this. And I put them together and I'm like, see, it kind of goes together. And they're like, I think I see what you're talking about. And I'm like, here, let me, when I get home later on, I'll demo it myself at home so you can hear what it is that I'm hearing. Like, cause we used to record all of our practices and rehearsals and stuff. So like I had like, and we multi-track recorded everything. So like, you know, because we were using the same studio space that we did with the podcast, we had everything already set up for doing that. So everything was multi-track. So I could like isolate each guitar part and listen to what they were doing and figure out what it is. So I came home, I came here and I quickly threw it together and then sent it to our group chat and was like, this is what I was talking about. And they heard it and they were like, oh, okay. So then the next time we came around to practice, to rehearsal, we tried doing it. And it's now like one of all of our favorite parts of the song. Like, and it came from an organic thing of everybody kind of had their own stuff, but they weren't hearing it together. And then I was the one who was sitting there going like, no, this could work. You could put this together. Like, you take this and you take this, and they can play together. And now it's like when we play that song live, it's like that part is like one of the parts where like we all get down the most because like we're just like, this works so well. Like, and to think that nobody really noticed this before, it just kind of came organically. But it's like we were talking earlier about how, you know, these two guys with Engel and Scotty have both kind of semi-retired from doing music stuff over the years. And like, which is honestly, like with Scott, like it's kind of a shame. Like some of the stuff you were doing, like your electronic stuff, I really got into. Like I thought you were doing really good with it. So I was like, oh man, hopefully one of these days he'll come somewhat out of retirement.
I still mess around with it. It's just I have kids now and getting them to do this, that, and the other, and dinner and lunch and get to bed. Here's your melatonin. Yeah. So, I still mess around with it though.
Well, that's good. One of these days, I swear, I will try to get you guys. Well, maybe not Mark, because like you're a bit too far away now. But I was like, I got to get you guys to come out to the shop and like actually just come out and like jam or have like hang out for a while at some point. Because like I think you guys would love like being able to be in that environment. Like, and it's one of those things where, like I said, when we started all this, it was meant to be a space for everybody to be able to use in a situation like that. It's like, hey, you might not have a place to practice or jam at home, but like get a hold of me. We've got a space. Like you can come out and use it. Like, the neighbors and everything, they're all used to it, so nobody's really gonna pitch a fit. I mean, shit. Like I've recorded drums at like 1 o'clock in the morning out there before, and nobody's done anything about it. I mean, we've soundproofed it pretty well too, so like you don't hear a ton outside, but I would love to get you guys, at least, those of you that are within driving distance. I mean, Mark, you're more than welcome to come out too, but it's a bit harder for you to, just come and hang out.
I can drive to the boat carry him over and finish the drive.
I can't actually remember the last time I was in Indiana. It's been a while now.
It's been a few years for sure, because I remember you had said something about you were coming out for something for like holiday thing or something with a family.
Yeah.
And I remember I hit you up and was like, you better not be coming out here and like not seeing me. And then like then it ended up being one of those things where like timing just didn't work out, and like I didn't get a chance to see you when you were out here.
Yeah. That was when I was a little bit younger and I cared a little bit more about what people had, expectations on me. I feel like there were some like family expectations, like, oh, you need to be back and blah blah blah, and I was like, but I want to go visit friends. And now I just be like, I'm just gonna fuck off and visit friends.
Yeah, so you'll have to let me know like next time. Like, although now there's not really much of a reason for you to come out here except for just to see us. Like, you don't have anybody here anymore, really. So
got one grandparent left.
Well, so you got that, but that's. I mean, you could use that as your excuse if you have to. I'm justifying coming. I'm justifying coming out to Indiana for the one grandparent that I have there.
Where do you all live?
I've been living in Lafayette for over a decade at this point. Like I've moved around in Lafayette to different places, but I've been here for basically a decade.
Yeah.
I'm
in good old Kokomo. Been here since like 2004, except for about a 2-year period. I moved to Savannah, Georgia, living out there on the edge of the beach for a couple of years.
I was so jealous of that. When I saw pictures, I was like, damn it, man. I'm so jealous.
It was gorgeous. Downtown Savannah is beautiful. And, I'd jump on the motorcycle and ride 30 minutes out to Tybee Island and hang out on the beach for the day. And
lucky.
It was beautiful. When you miss your family and you move back, you kick yourself every day for it. But no, it was a good experience. It was cool as hell. But stuck in Kokomo.
I've been in Indianapolis for, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. So since 2006, when I graduated, I moved down here for college, and then I just stuck around because I like the city.
Yeah, I like Indianapolis. Indianapolis is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's trying to get around now. Everything's under construction, so
it's a nightmare.
I just sit at home. Yeah,
better for it.
Yeah, I was just telling them, like, we played a show last night in Indy, and like normally I wouldn't I was telling them normally I wouldn't do one of these podcasts like the morning after having to do a show, but because this was one of the few times I knew I'd gotten you nailed down, Mark, to being able to do something like this. I was like, I gotta just power through it. I just gotta power through it. Like I gotta get up and I gotta do this. Like, but yeah, like, dude, the traffic though in Indy, you're right, it is so fucked right now. Like, like with all that construction down there. Oh my god. Oh,
I used to live right by Ruoff, like
Okay.
the neighborhood right across the street from Ruoff, and trying to get down to like the south side to hang out with a buddy or something, it'd take like 2 hours. And now I've moved down here to the south side, and I've got to drive up to Noblesville to see my kids, or pick them up and bring them back. And it's like, well, I'm gonna bring your iPads and just hopefully you enjoy the 2-hour drive back.
Jeez.
Yeah,
So
traffic is
unreasonable.
insane sometimes. Like when we came in last night, we were unfortunately coming in like right during rush hour, like that time period. And even though it's like it was a Sunday, like you're dealing with like the Sunday after Thanksgiving, so like everybody's like coming in from being out seeing family and shit. And of course, with all the construction that's being done, even up near us, like up in the Lebanon area, like everything gets funneled down into like those basically one lane. It's 2 lanes, but they got it separated by like the divider there. And so it's basically single lane. You got the single lane coming in off 52, and then you've got everybody coming up, or coming down from like the Chicago area, coming south on 65. And they come in this like bottleneck right there. And it's like, we came through and I was like, oh my God, like we're going to be late. It was just like, slowed down to almost a stop. I'm like, and we're not even into Lebanon yet. Shit. Like, this is a mess.
It's not bad going north, because I went up to Chicago for Thanksgiving for my grandparents' stuff. But coming back where it splits there, I got right behind. I thought I was in the left lane, and I thought I was going to be okay. And then there was a semi that got trapped in that left lane, single lane thing. And it's like, all right, I guess I'll sit here for 30 minutes.
Dude, when we left, like, so because I live just outside of Lafayette, like just northeast, like on Old 25. What was 25 when we were all growing up and like living around here. I live just up past the interstate and stuff on like near Buck Creek up on Old 25. And so I come into town, I go right under the interstate and then come into town there on Schuyler. And so when I was coming into town to start loading stuff up to go to the show, like I looked up at 65 and it was just dead, stopped, like just gridlocked all the way down as far as you could see in either direction. And I'm like, oh God, I hope this is not a sign of what I'm going to have to go into. Like going down to Indy, like, whoa, this is what's going on. Well, because like they're doing construction up here too. Like the section up going to like Battleground, like that exit there's closed because they're redoing that. And it's just like, why do you guys decide? Like, what is it with Indiana and like deciding to do all of it at the same goddamn time? Right. Like all of it at the same time. It's like, why? Like, focus on this section here, focus on this section here. Then you could get it done faster and not have as many fucking jams. Like, but no, you got to do it all at once. And then they're trying to do it like this close to like winter, and it's like, you guys know everything's gonna get shut down. Like. Once it starts snowing, you're not doing anything. Why are you doing this right now? Should have done this like 6 months ago.
Maybe they get a group discount on the orange barrels if they do a bunch at once.
And now this podcast has gone from being a music podcast to just being a bunch of old guys complaining about traffic. Oh, man. Oh. Well, I am glad that I was able to like get all of you guys together. I truthfully didn't think this would ever happen. Like, and now with technology being the way it is, it's amazing. Like I can do stuff like this. Like I can get all of you guys together. Because otherwise, let's be real. I don't know if it would be possible to get all of us together like in the same place at the same time, at least without having like 6 months to a year in planning to make it happen ahead of time. Like
serious confluence of
it's just not a feasible thing, but I'm glad I was able to. Like I just like shot my shot when I was like messaging you guys all independently, trying to be like, can we make this happen? Like, would you guys be able to do it? Like, like it's like I know it's kind of a silly thing, like just getting us together and like bullshitting about like this shitty high school band that we were in for, you know, a couple of years.
Back in my day.
But I know, like I was saying earlier, for me it was like important, if for nothing else, than like this kind of retrospective look on my life as far as people that were like important to me, that like influenced me being able to go forward and do what I was, you know, what I've been doing over the years. It's like if it hadn't been for me working with you guys back when I was 16, 17 years old, like I wouldn't have continued on doing what I'm doing now. Like, and same with all the other guys I've been with in other bands too. Like I've gotten things from everybody that I've been with, and I'm sure at some point, you know, I'll have other people on this as well from other projects that I've been involved in and things. But like this was one in particular that was really important to me because I was like, man, like especially at that time in my life, like you guys were like very important to me. Like that, you guys were my life aside from like being a typical teenager, you know, having a high school relationship and shit. Like you guys were it. Besides that, like I didn't like I spent all of my time with you guys. Like aside from, you know, from that,
Pretty much the same. Yeah.
And so it's like, man, I haven't for people that were like such an important part of my life at that time. It's like I haven't talked to all of you guys in so long that it's like, man, I've got to get with you. I mean, obviously I've talked with each of you and been in contact with each of you at different points over the years, but like especially having everybody together like this, I wouldn't have dreamed to be able to do this a few years ago. Like it's kind of cool for me. Like
it is cool
seeing everybody's faces and like it's like it's so weird. Like I look at all of us and I like it's like we've all changed, but we're all still the same. It's like I look at everybody, I'm like, oh yeah, like it's still us. We're all old men now, but but it's still
we're not
us.
that old. We're not that old.
I don't know, Mark. Might be in a little bit of denial there, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking like, what is life expectancy? I don't know. It's like 75 or something.
I don't even want to get into that, dude.
I'm like 36, so that makes me middle aged.
Well, shit, that puts me past halfway.
Yep, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
that's
buy me a midlife crisis.
I was gonna say, so I mean, to be honest, a certain part of like doing this podcast and getting you guys on here is probably me handling a little bit of a midlife crisis myself. Like, you're like, oh shit, like it hasn't been that long, has it been, guys? Shit, like I'm not that old, am I?
What does it mean to be a musician with a midlife crisis? Though it's like you already buy all this shit that you don't necessarily need all the time anyway. Like what do you do? Like buy more guitars?
There's never too many guitars. Never. Or too many drum sets. Like I was telling them and everybody with the fucking space with all the drums that we have out at our practice space. There's like 5 drum kits out there. You can never have too many drum kits.
Guess I need to go out and buy me a Viper now.
No, you don't need to end up upside down in a fucking cornfield. Like that's not what.
That's how I go. That's how I go. At least I was smiling.
We all like. Let's be real here. We all know that's how Engel's going to go out. It's either going to be in a car upside down in a field, or it's going to be on a motorcycle. Like
I don't own a motorcycle anymore, so. But I got a Neon that's faster than a Viper, so.
I was going to say, did your lady finally talk you out of the motorcycle thing? Like,
yeah. It just sat for a couple of years. Like I've got a car that I only drive in the summertime and I prefer it. So, and with the way, there's too many idiots on the road anymore staring at their phone. I don't trust myself to be out there on 2 wheels. It's just time to sell it. That's me being responsible.
That's all mine too.
The trap.
Yes. Crap. I did learn something.
Zach, are you going to make like an archive of the Drowning Machine stuff, like all of
Yeah,
the
I
like
think, like, honestly,
official
like,
and like demos
when
and everything?
when I put this episode together, like I was telling them, like, usually when I do these, I record everything from the very beginning. There's no real intro or anything that I do on it. We just kind of talk, and then I'll go back and edit things together later. And I might add some stuff to it. And chances are, when I go to edit this together, I'm probably going to add in some pictures and some clips of stuff. When it
Mhm.
comes to the archive of the actual songs, I've been thinking about like what I'm going to do with that, because like I have a a label account through like DistroKid and stuff that I put all of like my releases and things through. But I'm trying to think if like how many available bands I still have available, like slots I have available for that, without having to
And like,
upgrade to a.
how much of it do you really want to see like the public light of day?
Yeah, there's that too, where it's like, well, I mean, to be honest, like I did the same thing though with like all of my Remembering Ellie stuff. Like a couple years ago, I was just like, fuck it, and I started putting it up publicly. And it's like, yeah, a lot of that early shit is garbage when it comes to audio production and stuff, but I want it to still be there so that it's available,
Mhm.
even if just for me to go back and like look at and have a place where it's like I know it is, like it's there, I can go to it. Um but I have thought about putting up the Drowning Machine stuff too, because I still have all of it. I know at one point I sent you a link to a folder that I had that had like everything that I could find, all of the old, any of the old demos that I still had, or
Yeah.
any of that. Like,
I've got a whole bunch of crap on my external hard drive too. A Drowning Machine folder. I've got a Remembering Ellie folder. I think I still have like Silver.
oh
Some of
god,
that
yeah,
stuff.
I still have that.
Whoa.
I still have a folder for that shit too. Like, yeah.
I'll have to pull that up and I'll send it all to you later. And
Yeah, you'll have to let me know if, like, 'cause you might have some stuff that I don't have. Like,
yeah,
you might have some MP3s and shit from back in the day that I lost.
I've got quite a
'Cause
bit of old stuff. I think I have a few old videos too, not of maybe like full concerts, but I think I remember like back in high school, uh, Krista had made some kind of like an infomercial commercial
yeah,
thing
she
for
did. Yeah, for the school news
our
program.
Channel One
Yeah,
news program. I think I
yeah,
still had that too. So,
yeah.
Oh
I
um,
wow.
forgot about that.
so I'll see what I can dig up and I'll send it all to you.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Then I could cut some of that stuff in, and everybody
Yeah,
can kind of look at it. We all can watch this back later and laugh at
yeah.
ourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Oh
absolutely.
man.
That's
Do
one
you
show I forgot about was the talent show
Yeah, I
at
was just getting ready to
Carroll.
bring that
Yeah,
up. Do you
Yeah.
remember like we were gonna do that fucking cover song? We were gonna do the sunglasses cover,
yeah.
and we ended up changing it last minute and being like, no, we're just gonna do one of ours.
Yeah.
Like, and I
I
remember
still think it would have been awesome to do the sunglasses cover, but
oh, it would have been like there was somebody who I think it might have been on TikTok or something. Somebody had posted like a video of like only like Gen Xers and like elder millennials would recognize these like intros for
yeah,
songs, and one of them that popped up was sunglasses, and I laughed and I commented in there. I was like, yeah, the funny thing is, in high school we actually had like a cover version of that song.
We had Buddy Holly too, right? I
Yep,
was
we
thinking
did,
that
and
was
we actually did Buddy Holly
yeah,
at
the
at the
Flora
last.
Fair.
I think it was the last show we did, the
the
last
fair.
fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did.
Man, that was a blast too.
Yeah.
I do
That
have
was
some clips of that too, like when I did a video not too long ago, I was able to find some clips and put them together. Like on my personal TikTok, there was a video I made, and there were some clips that I'd found, because most of that stuff, unfortunately, I lost like
Yeah,
years ago. I kicked myself because I had all of those old 8mm cassette tapes, like videotapes and shit from back
yeah,
then, like when all the dumb shit we used to do. Like I had like the videos of like Mark and I like in the old middle school gym parking lot in Delphi doing stupid shit, like jumping over the staircases and stuff. Like I had like videos, I had all of those, and I had like videos of us just goofing off and like some of our shows and practices and all that. I had them all in a box, and then that box was put in a storage unit. And when I got divorced, like all that stuff kind of became a mess, and that storage unit ended up getting lost because neither of us could afford to keep paying for it. And there was this argument over like who's gonna have to pay for it and this and that. And it was like, I'm like, I can't afford to keep paying for it by myself. I got all this other shit I got to pay for now. So like, I can't be the only one to pay for it. So we ended up losing that storage unit, and like I had all that stuff in there. Like I lost so much of that shit, like all those old videos and everything that wouldn't mean anything to anyone else. You know,
Yeah.
somebody who goes and buys a storage unit, they're gonna be like, oh, whatever, and they're gonna throw it away. Like it's not important to them. But I was like, damn it, man, I should have left that stuff at home. I shouldn't have put that in the storage unit because now I don't have any of it. Like all those old videos are all gone. But I was lucky enough to find a couple of video files that I had made that had some footage from that stuff in it. So I was able to just kind of clip out these little sections of where that stuff was in this, video that I'd cut together back in like 2003 or something.
Nice.
And it had all these little clips in it. So I was able to take all those little clips and then reuse them later. So I might put some of that in this too. But there was like some footage of us playing that last show there at the fair, the one you were talking about earlier, Scott, at the youth group thing. There was some footage from that that was in there. Then there was like footage of like Mark and Engel and I in my old bedroom, like on one of the on one of the many like weekend like runs where you guys would come and like stay at my house over the weekend or whatever. And speaking of which, Scott, I still to this day cannot, like, it's in my head forever, you coming into my bedroom that one time when we were all, it might have even been the same day that we did the sledding thing and all the video, like the photos and shit. And my high school girlfriend was there at the time. And I remember you opened up the door and the first thing out of your mouth was like, smells like sex in here. Like as loud as you possibly could.
Oops.
And I'm just like, and especially at that time, given like the conservative family environment that I was in, I'm just like, oh, Jesus, Scott, you're going to get me in so much trouble. Fucking 14, 15-year-old Scotty, like kicking in the door. It smells like sex in here.
Most appropriate response I've ever heard.
No, I think that last show that we had at the fairgrounds, I think I was playing in another band, and neither one of the bands I played in won. I was pissed.
Yeah, you played with us, and then you were in that like pop punk band at the time as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I honestly don't even remember who won because I didn't really even care that year. Like I knew it was technically a Battle of the Bands thing, but I didn't really care. I was just looking at it as a show. Like I could care less. Like I knew I wasn't gonna win. I didn't care.
we played the Battle of the Bands twice, I think. The 1 year and then the next year, and then we did. I think that was the last show. But I remember the first year that we played. It was like the first show I ever played ever. And we had the
first show that we did at the fair, like for that Battle of the Bands, like the year before, was the first time that I had ever been a frontman for a band, like solely, like in a public setting like that. That was the first time I'd ever done that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember like that was the first time I'd ever gotten up in front of an audience and actually like done screams and shit. Like, and up to that point, like all of my screams and everything were all like, nowadays it's funny because I remember, Mark, do you remember how like we used to like, it was it's not real unless you're like shredding your throat and shit. You're not really screaming. It's like the fake whisper screams and like the throaty fake shit. And it's like, now that's an actual technique that people use. It's like, oh no, it's like, this is how you do that. It's like, back in the day, man, we used to get so much shit if you weren't actually like shredding your throat doing it. Like, and now they're like, oh no, you don't do that. You're going to destroy your voice. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like, there's a reason why I wasn't doing it that way. But that show was like the first time I'd actually like just gone for it like that. That very first time we played at the fair. And I remember my parents came up to me like afterwards, and I remember my mom was just like, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, fuck, I didn't know I could do that. I literally, that was like the first time I'd really ever done that. Like, I was just like, fuck it, I'm going for it. And we just went for it. Like, I had a bad habit of like focusing too much on like everything else other than being the front man and the vocalist. It was like writing the songs, playing guitar parts, learning guitar parts. And then like the last part was me being like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm supposed to be the vocalist for this band. Like, I should probably like learn to do something.
I was the one that jumped off the stage and broke the guitar, and then had a lady come up to me pissed off because I almost like a piece of the guitar I think went flying at her or her kid or something maybe. And
dude, do you know how, like, honestly, since then, like, I personally have smashed like 4 guitars on stage at like different shows throughout the years. Like, it's kind of fun. I bought a guitar. Like, we played a show at this festival a few years ago. It's probably like 3 years ago now, 4 years ago. And I specifically went to a pawn shop and bought a shitty guitar just to smash it during that song. Because there was a song that like was like had the perfect spot for it. And I wanted to like make an impression at this show we were doing. And it was like, I knew like this would be the way to do it. So like we got to that part like in the song, and like a couple of people kind of knew what was coming. Like, I think only one of my other bandmates even knew what was coming, because they saw me switch to this shitty guitar and they're like, uh-oh, like something's gonna happen here. Like, why is he switching to this shitty guitar? Like, and then I just fucking, like, I swung that thing around and smashed it all over this concrete floor the place we were in. And like the guy who ran the place, like, he had a couple of pieces of it up on his wall in there after that. Like, it was just like, and then at one time I did it at a show, and what was cool was there was this kid that was at the show. He had to have been like 5, 6 maybe, who was at the show, and it was literally his first show he had ever gone to. Like, his dad had taken, it was like the first show, and like he was like in awe, like he thought it was amazing. And so when I heard, like, when his dad was like, yeah, this is like his first show, and I was like, so I gave him like this piece of my fucking guitar that had broke off, and that kid was like in heaven. Yeah. I'm like, see, okay, you know, it's kind of cool. Like, I know I'm a nobody, like, nobody gives a shit about me, but I just affected this kid's life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, now he's probably going to go on and like learn to play music and like want to do stuff like that. And it's like, that's why I do what I do. Like, it's like, I don't really care about being famous. Like, inspiring more kids to like want to play music is more my thing.
Yeah.
Like,
well, at least you go ahead.
I was just gonna say that guitar that I broke, JB had given me because he knew that I wanted to smash one, and he had one laying around. It was just nothing fancy. He was like, "Here, use this one." Okay.
No, I had that show in Logansport with A Cold Dark Night when I was playing keyboards.
Yeah, and that was that was like when I was on my hiatus, so I wasn't at that show. Like, I had kind of taken a break from the band. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had just bought that keyboard. It was like $900 or something, and I had a little stand, and I did like a handstand on the keyboard stand, and I didn't plan on doing it, and I was like, fuck it, I'll just do it. And my keyboard went flying off the stand, landed on the ground, knobs fell off of it, and I'm like, well, that's the last time I'm doing anything crazy with this thing.
To be fair, though, you had a bit to live up to, because like the guy we had doing keys before that used to do crazy shit too. Like, and we did this show where at one point, like, I look over and he's like straight up like elbowing the fucking keys and shit. Like, it was like basically the keyboard that he used was just an old like shitty like Casio keyboard. It was mostly just used as a controller, you know, right, for everything else. It wasn't like the sounds weren't really coming from that. It was just a controller. And so he was just beating the fuck out of this thing. And I remember like he at one point like throws it down and does like a front flip off into the fucking crowd and shit. And I'm like, oh man, I loved having him in the band just for that. Even if he wasn't like the greatest musician, he was just like fun to watch, like because he would do crazy shit like that.
It's like the keyboardist in Rammstein. He smashes his in all the shows.
Well, oh man,
That's good. That's awesome.
oh man. Well, you're gonna have to get heading out of here soon, aren't you, Mark?
I gotta take off pretty soon.
Yeah.
Got that daycare pickup.
Yeah.
Being an adult is fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's funny because this time period is literally like the only time period that I have free to be able to like do stuff like this, because my littlest one is in preschool from like 9 to 11, and my lady, like, she goes and like works out and stuff. She's off on Mondays, but she goes and like works out and stuff while he's at school, and then she goes and picks him up. So I'm like, here
Nice.
within like the next half hour, 45 minutes, they're gonna be back, and then I'm gonna have a 3.5-year-old running around screaming. So
Yep.
but,
I don't have kids running screaming, but I do have cats that have been running back and forth. I don't know if you heard them in the background.
How is it that, like, out of the four of us, Ingle's the one who ended up not having kids? like, how did that happen?
Didn't tell you.
Because he was the smart one, I guess. Maybe, I don't know.
Protection. Use a rubber.
Oh man, I had somebody the other day I was talking to about having kids and stuff, and like being here, like obviously being a college town, like I deal with a lot of the college kids, and they'll be talking about like their futures and whatever, which to me is just hilarious to think about, because they're all like 20, 21, like I'm just like, fuck, I'm old. But they'll be talking about like, oh, I don't know, I don't know if I'll ever have kids or this or that, and I was told this one dude, I was like, having kids is simultaneously the greatest and worst thing to ever happen to you. Like, it is like you have them and you think, man, I don't think I could ever love anything as much as I love this, but I also don't know if I could ever want to throttle something as much as what I wanted to, like, just, oh. It's like my oldest is like 11. He turns 11 in like a couple days. And I think to myself, just like, Jesus, dude, like there's been several times with him, and I'm just like, this is paybacks for the shit that I did to my parents. Like, that's exactly what this is. This is karma. This is the world coming back around to slap me in the ass.
Crazy how that works.
And then, like, I'll be talking to my parents about stuff, and my dad and my mom will just be laughing, like, yep, this is what you get. Like, this is what you get. Well, on that note, like, I am glad to get a chance to have all of you guys on here, and like we'll have to try something like this again in the future, like keep in contact more. Like, now that I have ways to get a hold of all of you, like I can make that happen. And for those of you that are like nearby and you get some free time, like, hit me up sometime and come out to the fucking shop. Like,
yeah,
I got to get you guys, blowing the dust off of yourselves a bit.
It's about 20 years of dust.
But anyways, like, I think it was nice to be able to pull this off, and I'm glad that I could. And
oh yeah,
it's fun to be able to see all you guys.
Definitely, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we got about a little over 2 hours worth of content I can like edit down into something.
So there's about 2 minutes of good usable content.
Much like our career as a band.
You got it. Rest of it's kicking around.
Oh, I guess one of the only things we didn't talk about is the fact that, like, although it makes sense, like, there was like no discussion about bass players because we went through so many of them and like never had a permanent one. So it's like, I just now thought about that. I was like, it's kind of ironic. Like, we went through this whole thing and I didn't even bring up like talking about bass players. It's like, well, because we didn't really have any permanent bass players.
Yeah. No, we had a few different ones.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I will let all of you guys go and go back to your normal lives for the rest of the day, and you know, I'll keep in touch, let you guys know when everything's
Cool.
up and ready. And
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right.
yep,
All right.
man.
Talk to you guys later.
All right.
Later,
See you guys.
man.
See you guys later.
Well, that was a fun conversation. I can't believe I was able to pull that off. It was really great to get to see all those guys again and have a conversation with them. Like I hope that I'll be able to keep in contact with them a little bit more in the years to come. It was definitely fun going down memory lane there and through the cringe and everything. But like I said at the beginning and throughout the episode, I wouldn't be the person that I am today when it comes to music without them. So I want to thank them again for coming on, and I want to thank you guys for watching. See you next time.